That's why we've actually got to have a pause in immigration to allow people to work out and to allow a new government to work out what is genuinely going on here. And obviously with welfare, the first thing to do is to have face-to-face assessments to find out who is taking the mickey and who is genuine. This stuff is not rocket science.
Why don't they do face-to-face?
They used to until COVID, and then of course you had the whole working from home nonsense, and surprise, surprise, the claims have skyrocketed ever since. And so all over the place, what you've got to do is you've got to cut out the waste, cut daft regulations, useless things that get in the way of growth and productivity. Who of your listeners, how many message you or tweet you saying, I love GDPR and it's really good and useful? Go on, folks, let's make this a new competition.
Right now. I don't even bloody well know what GDPR is.
It's just annoying, that's what it is. It's very expensive and it damages productivity.
All right.
Across the whole bridge. So you deal with daft regulations.
One message, and I share this, is from Louise, right? And she sent this message in earlier for you because she knew you were coming on. One of the things that is patently obvious in government, and I hear this every single day, we've talked about this before, but she wants an update, is the so-called blob, the thousands of civil servants. I mean, I've talked to you before about how in the middle of this show a year and a half ago, I'm reading this press release that says that, you know, Home Office officials are using British taxpayers' money to sue their own government who are democratically elected because they don't agree with Rwanda. And I'm going, hold on a second, you're working for me and I'm paying you, and then... How is Reform, if elected, going to deal with what seems to be this huge entity that runs this country?
There is a blob that think that they run the country, and they basically view elected politicians as sort of cherries on the cake that you should sort of pat on and look at and say,
pat a cake,
they're there, don't worry, dear chap, we'll do all the work. And the Tories allowed them to do all the work and didn't put any performance-related requirements on them, and that's what you've got to do. And you've got to basically make people do the jobs that the elected officials, whether it's councillors or members of parliament, have been elected to do. And if you don't want to do that job, please go and get another job, and we'll give you a splendid reference. This stuff shouldn't be that difficult, but we are already experiencing the power of the blob. But the good news is that's giving us the experience to know what to look for.
Do you believe that Reform has the... I mean, does it have the strength to take the blob on if elected?
We will take them on, and we've got lots of great people applying to be Reform candidates up and down the country. And look, will it be easy? No.
No.
Is it worth trying? Absolutely yes, because otherwise the country is literally doomed. So we will take it on, we'll get lots right, we'll make some mistakes.
I say it every day, Richard.
And some of your listeners will, of course, get frustrated because we all want things to happen tomorrow.
But all you have to do is almost Trump-esque, which is stand there. I mean, I've said this every single day. I'm going to do this for a living, but I will be standing in front of people and saying, right, don't laugh, but, you know, been married twice, not me. I've made a few mess-ups, I've done this, I've done that, but here's what I believe in. This is what I am putting to you. If elected, I will do that, and I will take on the media, and I will take on the legal system, and I will take on the blob, because that's what you elect. And we'll go on this journey, and I'll tell you when it's good, and I'll tell you when it's bad, and that's it.
That's why when I've talked about Net Stupid Zero, I wrote yesterday to the 8 largest potential bidders for huge offshore wind farms, they're going to bid for them this August, and I said, just put you on notice that we're leading in the polls. If we win the next general election, then you invest at your peril, because the British people are not signed up to paying huge subsidies.
Did they get a response?
Ever higher, but well, some of it actually. So we know that they are absolutely terrified because they realise they've been rumbled. They've been rumbled for the con that renewable wind farms and solar farms and battery storage systems are, and so we're calling them out. So already, even years ahead of the next general election, we're starting to have an influence.
Would Reform frack?
Yes, we would frack. We've got, give or take, a decade's worth of shale gas in North Lincolnshire.
How does that not make us money?
That's energy treasure under our feet. And all that money would stay here in the UK. And of course, we'll prove that it's safe and okay to do so with test wells and things, so that people who may be concerned don't need to be concerned.
And you can also deal with people who are against it by subsidising their bills in the local areas.
There's a whole raft of ways to do it. What we do know is that where you use your own oil and gas, that's the treasure under your feet, guess what? In America, their prices are a third of ours, and they're growing, and they're getting wealthier, and it's not a coincidence.
Couple of questions, some good, some bad. Steve from Cambridge, as a 2-year member of Reform, I'm proud of the progress you're making, but can I ask, are you in talks with any more ex-Tories? So Jake Berry, I'm going to put you on the spot. So Jake Berry was on the show yesterday, good friend of mine, and before him I spoke to Jonathan Gullis. Now I want you to watch a clip because I don't think I've ever seen anybody who has a belief as depressed as Jonathan Gullis. Have a listen. This was Jonathan Gullis yesterday. Is reform something you've thought about, JG?
Look, I've been a member of the Conservative Party, Jeremy, for 18 years, my entire adult life, tragic as that may sound. I've never felt so despondent and disheartened with the Conservative Party, but having been a member for that long, seen the good, the bad and the ugly, I really want to believe that at some stage we're going to fully acknowledge our mistakes, completely understand and empathise why some of my former colleagues, like Jake Berry, have chosen to go to Reform UK. And of course, at times, I've looked at things and thought it could be quite tempting, but ultimately...
Have you had any conversation? Have you had any conversations with the Reform?
No conversations at all. No conversations at all. Look, at this present time, Jeremy, I'm clinging on by my fingernails and fighting and holding on for the Conservative Party to finally turn a corner. But I've never felt so almost politically homeless in my lifetime.
Would you rule out right now ever joining Reform? You can't, can you?
No.
You can't.
No, I can't, Jeremy. You know. Can you, if you say never say never, right?
Yeah.
If I said no, if I said I can rule it out, and then I look like a bit of a donut in 12 months' time if I change my mind, wouldn't I?
The next time you have him on, you should ask to look at his fingernails, because I suspect that they're in a bit of a state as he clings on by his fingernails.
Now, listen, JG's a friend of mine, right? Love him or hate him, whatever. But I will say this: there is criticism of Reform when ex-Tories do make the switch. Are you aware of that criticism?
We're well aware of it. Look, at the end of the day, I've always said, and I've been very consistent about this, that we never give a running commentary on any discussions we may or may not be having with anybody. That's a standard thing. But whether people could join us from the Labour Party, we've had defections from Labour councillors recently, or from independents, which is obviously another view, or from the Tories. We are ourselves. We are not Tory 2.0. We are Reform. We are common sense, and that's why. And we're conviction people, and that's why we do. The most exciting thing, actually, is the quantity of high-quality people who are coming to us and said, "I've never been involved in politics. I never thought I needed to bother because I'd let people get on with it, but they made such a mess of it. Actually, I've got a successful track record. I need to get stuck in and see if I can help out." And
what I love about you is that you will answer these questions. Richard, why don't your MPs or MPs en masse call for a vote of no confidence in this government? We are a joke and it is getting worse. Darren in Essex.
Darren, look, the reality is we could call for it, but it would go nowhere, because obviously we've got a huge Labour majority with this loveless landslide that they've got, although it does seem to be slipping away. You've lost Darren Abbott today and 4 yesterday. But look, at the end of the day, we've just got to keep banging the drum, making a difference, having an influence. For example, on Net Stupid Zero, we're having an influence even though we're not in power. They're terrified of us. They've accused me of all sorts of disgraceful things today, which is great. It means I'm getting in their head and worrying them, as is Nigel.
Please, Chris Maitland asked Richard why Reform didn't attend the rape gang meetings yesterday. Chris in Littlehampton.
Because I think that was organised, if I'm right, and I could be wrong here, but if that was one organised by Rupert Lowe, then that wasn't something we would organise. But we have been absolutely rock solid about having a public inquiry into the rape gangs, and now the government, they have indicated they're going to do it, but what we've actually got to make sure is that they will do it, and it will be prompt, and that's the big question.
This is quite near the mark from Rob in Newcastle, who's a massive reformite. Will they stick to getting rid of people who came illegally? The phrase deporting en masse people who cheated with no amnesty. Millions need the commitment, because in his mind, that's what tipped the scales for Donald Trump in the US.
Yeah, we've said very clearly that those people who are here illegally should be removed. The issue is we've no idea how many are here illegally. We've no idea where they are. We've no idea, frankly, how to find them currently. But all of that can be sorted, but it will take time. It's not going to happen overnight. We have to be honest with people about that. But you've got to work very closely, for example, with the fast food companies, many of whom are using as delivery cyclists or whatever, bike riders, people who are working illegally.
Well, I mean, I said that. I mean, you were on the show that week. I mean, that day that broke, I'd have taken the doors into those hotels of the police at 6 a.m. in the morning, literally taken the doors in on camera, and I'd have frog marched those CEOs of those companies up Downing Street. I think the feeling that I get is that so many people, and this is where the game changes, I think, for reform, and you know what I think about it all, is they're almost so hacked off with what has happened and what they've had that they see this opportunity and they're believing in this opportunity. And a lot of them, I don't even think it's doubt, a lot of them are like, but I mean, will they? Can they? Will they?
And those are all the right questions.
And I get that. And so for me, you know, we talked last time with Starmer and the Ming Vase didn't say anything. Reform has to keep banging the drum, but saying to people, what you said, doesn't matter if I get slaughtered, in the press, legally, and we'll be honest with you, we'll stand in that lectern and go, I've had a crap day and we've been blocked here and blocked there, but the fight continues. That's what I think.
And for example, so absolutely, and those are the right questions that voters should ask. Will we? Can we? How? And all we'll say is trust us. When we say we're going to try and do stuff, we will try and do that. Will we be blocked at certain points?
Yeah.
Yes. Will we make mistakes? Yes. But will we get lots right? Yes. And is it worth trying? Absolutely. Every day, every hour of every week.
Got to finish slightly light-hearted. Today, the Labour Party have announced that they'd like to lower the voting age to 16. Now, we thought we would have a little look, Tice man, at what you can't do when you're 16. So, the Labour government says that they will allow 16-year-olds to vote. At which point, it's also fair to say that at 16, you can't buy alcohol, you can't drive a car, you can't have a bet, you can't work full-time, you can't buy fireworks, spray paint, you can't use a sunbed, get a tattoo, buy a lottery ticket, go to war, sit on a jury, become an MP, apply for a mortgage, and my absolute favourite, Richard Tice, you can't phone my bloody radio station without asking your mum and dad at 16, but you can vote for the next Prime Minister. This is desperate politics by the Labour Party, isn't it?
Desperate politics, which is why I stood in the House of Commons today and said that reform is completely against 16 and 17-year-olds having the right to vote. Interestingly, they themselves are completely split down the middle as to whether or not they should have the right to vote. But your list there is the best list, actually, I would expect that from your good self, of all of the reasons why.
In a radio session, you've got to ask your parents, but I'm going to vote, and they're 12 right now.
Actually, that is a sensible constraint if they were to phone you, I mean, honestly.
Yes.
But
see, one never misses a chance, does he?
But look, I mean, you've said it there. It's bonkers. And most 16 and 17-year-olds are at school or at college. Yeah. And that's a great thing, learning how to get on in the world. And then when you're 18, you're legally an adult. And that's the moment at which
me one thing,
most people should go to work, start paying taxes, and therefore actually taking an interest in how those taxes are spent.
I know you've got to go, and Ryan's shouting at you, but do me a favour if you do get elected. I think there's a real issue with education and what's being pushed upon our kids by ideology in schools. I think it's frightening.
We've got to stop this gender claptrap. Absolutely outrageous. And
did I tell you what somebody said to my daughter at Edinburgh University? The lecturer stood up and said, by the way, while we're at it, the British Army have caused every world war in the last 100 years. I mean, it shouldn't be working.
This stuff is unbelievable. But that's one of the reasons why we're doing so well in Scotland, because they've gone down this complete gender claptrap rabbit hole, and we just tell it as it is. There's only two sexes and there's only two genders, and forget the rest of this nonsense.
You're a legend. I'm being shouted at. Would you like a custard cream before you go?
Definitely.
Go on, have a custard cream. There you see, I'm bribing politicians now. This is Talk Drive.